Good afternoon. My name is Scott Beaver. I work with Cobra Solutions, who's been a leader in Cobra administration software for the past 25 years. I'd like to thank Black Gould & Associates for allowing me to perform this presentation to explain the law and also our solution. In April of this year, the Senate passed Bill 1217, which we've coined Arizona Mini Cobra. And what it is basically continuation coverage for small groups. In essence, its small employers will be required to offer eligible employees and or their covered dependents the right to continue medical insurance for up to 18 months upon experiencing a qualifying event. Employees or dependents electing to continue would be responsible for the group rates plus a 5% admin fee. I think it's important to note here that we're talking about small employers. We're talking about only medical insurance and up to 18 months for any qualifying event that is experienced. When does this go into effect? Well, it's for plans that renew after December 31st, 2018. In other words, your January 1 renewals. So, who are the affected employers? It's small employers with an average of 20 or less employees in the previous calendar year. Now, they have not told us how they calculate that average of 20. Is it on a monthly basis, quarterly basis? Our guess is that if your employer group is not required to administer federal Cobra, then they're going to fall under Senate Bill 1217 and be required to offer Mini Cobra to these employees. It only refers to group medical insurance plans. Okay, so if you have an employer group and you're only offering individual plans, the law does not apply. Who are the eligible employees and dependents? Well, the law states that they had to have enrolled on the medical plan for a minimum of 3 months. They can be ineligible for Medicare or not eligible for Medicare. And lastly, they must experience a qualifying event. Those qualifying events are going to be very similar to federal Cobra, with the most common being termination of employment. If someone has a reduction in work hours and loses benefits because of that, they should also offer Mini Cobra. In the event of the employee's death, divorce, or separation, the employee becoming eligible for Medicare, or a child losing dependent status under the plan, or even an employer bankruptcy and retired employees' dependents losing their coverage. If any of those events occur, Mini Cobra must be offered. Now, what are the notification requirements? Employers have 30 days from the date of the event to notify the employee or dependent of the right to continue coverage. Now, the law also states that it will be considered timely if it's postmarked within 44 days. Our thought on that is it's going to be very similar to federal Cobra. If there's a third-party administrator involved, the employer is going to have to notify them within 30 days. That TPA then is going to have 14 days, or a total of 44 days, to get the communications out. Law also states that if a covered dependent is not living with the employee, a separate notice should be sent. A second notice that is required is at renewal time, kind of like an open enrollment letter. This letter is going to have to inform the participant and qualifier of the rates, benefits, any changes in plans. Okay, and this letter has to go to people that have elected to continue Mini Cobra and qualifiers that are in their election period. During that election period, qualifiers have 60 days from the date of the qualifying event letter to elect Mini Cobra. If the employer is late on sending the letter, as I had stated, they had the 44 days. If they don't meet that requirement, then the qualifier gets additional time, or 120 days to elect. Once elected, they have 45 days to make their first premium payment. Lastly, coverage needs to be reinstated back to the date that they lost coverage. Okay? A participant cannot come to you and say on the 60th day, yes, I want to continue under Mini Cobra and I want to start today, and therefore not going back to the day that coverage was terminated. Okay, very important. Can they ever increase that 18-month time frame under Cobra? The answer is yes. They can experience what we call multiple qualifying events, and those are experienced by dependents. They can have a divorce or legal separation, the death of the employee, or a loss of dependent status. If one of those occur, they should be allowed an additional 18 months of coverage. Just like federal Cobra, if a dependent is deemed disabled by Social Security, they're eligible for the disability extension, which is up to 11 months. The carriers are going to be allowed to charge an additional premium. Basically, that is 150% of the group rate. For them to be eligible for the disability extension, they have to have been disabled at the time of the qualifying event. They have 60 days from the date of the determination to provide the notice to the employer. And lastly, it has to be done within the 18 months. When is Mini Cobra completed? Well, it's on the day the participant has completed his 18, 29, or 36 months continuation period, or on the paid through date if they don't make their 45 or 30-day grace period to pay premiums, on the date that they become entitled to Medicare, Medicaid, or they obtain other coverage. It's not other group coverage, it's any coverage. Or if the employer decides to terminate the plan for all employees, the Mini Cobra participants also would be terminated on that day. The law provides for military offerings for active duty employees. Basically what it's stating that if an employee is called to active duty, you would go ahead and offer them the right to continue, but it wouldn't be based upon a termination. It would be based upon a reduction in work hours. If they did not accept Cobra at that time, if they experienced a divorce or legal separation, loss of dependent status, or the employee passed away while on active duty, they should be offered Mini Cobra again for a full 18-month period. For employees that do accept Cobra and then later are enrolled on TRICARE, once they are terminated from TRICARE, they would need to be offered the ability to go back on Mini Cobra. Now it's a total of 18 months aggregate. So if they went 4 months right after they experienced the reduction in work hours, then went on TRICARE, you went ahead and terminated them for other coverage. Then let's say 3 years pass, they're removed from TRICARE, they should still be eligible for 14 more months of Mini Cobra. Okay, it was the 4 initial, 14 after, adding a total of 18 months. Little confusing. It's going to be very hard to administer. We get asked a lot, what's the difference between federal Cobra and Mini Cobra? And almost by calling it Mini Cobra does it a disservice because it is a totally separate law. And some of the differences that we found is obviously it's for groups with 20 or less employees. The employees must be on the plan for a minimum of 3 months. It only applies to medical plans. No general notice is provided. Now, the general notice is the notice that goes out initially explaining someone's rights under Cobra, federal Cobra. We feel this is going to be a problem with Mini Cobra in that if a spouse is never notified to contact the employer in the event of a divorce, how would they be able to elect Mini Cobra? So we think something will probably change in the future regarding that. The continuation period is 18 months for all qualifying events. whereas with federal Cobra, the death and divorce and the other two dependent qualifying events get 36 months. In the law, they use the term separation and legal separation to mean almost the same thing. So we're hoping we get some clarification on that. Another major difference is when we have to provide open enrollment notice to participants. It goes out to both participants and qualifiers that are in their election period. Also, when it comes to the disability extension, it's only referring to dependents that are eligible for that 11-month extension. The whole family unit would not be eligible to continue that extension. Also, for employees and dependents who are eligible for Medicare, they are not eligible for mini Cobra, unlike federal Cobra. It also has active duty enhancements, and there's a lot more differences I'm not going to get into, but I just wanted to point out there are major differences between federal and this Arizona state bill. Now that I've gone through and kind of talked about the law, I want to show you what we have to offer. Okay, and a lot of the information about this presentation can be found on a website that we have created. And it's just going to be at www.azminicobra.com. Okay, and what it's going to do is provide a couple of things. Number one, you can send your employer groups to the site. They can click on this link. It's going to basically tell them everything that I just went through. Okay? In addition, they can go ahead, or both them and you can contact us with any questions that you have. Just complete this form, send it to us, and we will go ahead and get back to you with an answer as quick as possible. They can purchase the software here as well. Now, the purchase price of the software is $249. For Black Gould & Associates brokers, we're going to provide a discount, and that discount is $25, so it's going to be $224 for the actual purchase. There are no commissions, unfortunately, to the brokers, but it's going to be a discount for your employer groups. Now, once they have purchased the software, a year from there, we're going to send them a bill for $99 so that we can continue to provide them all the updates and upgrades to the software. We have to monitor the law, we have to change the software, we have to change the notifications, and usually in the first years when legislation is passed, there are some significant changes that take place. So we are going to charge an annual fee of $99 to keep everything up to date. Okay, now let's actually get into the software. And the software is not a website. I want to make that very clear. This is something that would be downloaded and housed on their equipment, whether it is a PC or a server. Keep in mind that this does not operate on an Apple. Okay, it's only PC based. When you start the program, you're going to notice that it has menu items up top like most programs. It also has icons down here where people can click on those, basically doing the same things as up here. It also is going to have a things to do list. The things to do list acts as the brains of the software. So when you start up the software, it's going to tell you everything that you need to do. As long as you keep this list blank, you're going to be in compliance with the law. Now, we break down employees really into two different categories. One we call Cobra qualifiers, and they are individuals who were employees who have experienced a qualifying event. Next to them, if they accept Cobra and pay premiums, they are a Cobra participant. So with that information, it's going to make it a little easier to understand how the software is put together. First of all, when they start the program, they're going to go ahead and enter information in on their company. Very easy to do, not a whole lot of information. Next, they're going to go ahead and put information on their insurance plans in the system. I've gone ahead and I've put some information in on Blue Cross. It just asks some general information here, as long, and I also entered in the rates for this year, okay, for 2018. When it's at the beginning of December, the system's going to notify me that I need to enter the new rates in, and to do that I would just simply click the add button, add the new plan year, and then those rates would be available for those people. Okay, to speed up things, I've entered information and I'm going to go ahead and kind of walk you through it. In our list you can kind of see where it says send a qualifying event letter to Phil Mickelson. I'm going to go ahead and open up his file to show you the information that needed to be entered into the system so that you can kind of view. Just information on the qualifying event date, general information on the employee, the plan he is in, and the coverage type. You can also enter in information on the dependents, and once you have done that, click the OK. It's going to say let's produce this notification. Now all I have to do is double click on the letter, loads the word processor, imports all the variable information, personalizing the document. It's going to tell us what event was experienced, who is eligible for continuing their coverage. It's going to tell them the plan they were enrolled on and the premiums associated with it. And in this case, it's going to even tell us, since he termed mid-month, what the proration amount is. Further down in the notice, it's going to have an election form. So they would go ahead and complete the election form, selecting the plan that they're going to continue, the coverage type, and return it back to the employer. Okay, so what I would normally do is I would just come up here, print the letter. I'm just going to only print one page. So once I send that to the printer, and let's just say 5 years from now, a lawyer for Phil contacted us and said, hey, look, we want to just make sure you as a small employer offered Phil the right to continue under Mini Cobra. So all I would do is open up his file. I would go back to the digital filing cabinet. I would see the document in here. I can just double click on it, and I'm going to be able to produce the, it's going to take just a second to load. Okay, and it's going to go ahead and produce the document that we provided him. Okay, so that's how it's going to save all of your documents. It's going to be in the filing cabinet for them. Now, you'll also notice that it has been removed from the things to do list, okay, because it's already been accomplished. But let's kind of go fast forward. All of a sudden we receive the election notice back from Phil. I can just go under here, say that I received it. It's going to ask me who's going to be continuing and be the subscriber. I'll enter in the acceptance date. The plan selected, coverage type, and then all I have to do is click the OK. And a screen pops up saying, hey, look, now that the person has elected to continue, it's time for them to start making premium payments. So what we can do is we have a couple different methods for collecting the premiums. We can do monthly invoices, but that's going to require us to stay on top of it every single month to produce that invoice. Or we can produce what we call a coupon booklet. So I'm going to go ahead and just create that coupon booklet. It's going to bring up instructions. It's also going to say, okay, for October, here was his prorated amount that he owes. Okay, and that would be the $772.26. He would tear this October sheet off, send it back along with his check to the employer, and the employer, once they receive that, will go ahead and enter into the system, which I'll show you in just a second. right on the sheet, you'll notice we have October's, November's, December's coupons, but then there's nothing after that. Reason behind that is we have not entered in the renewal rates yet, so it doesn't know what to charge them. So come December, after we enter in the renewal rates, we can produce another year's worth of coupons for them. So now it comes time. Phil has become a Cobra participant. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and say that we received a check from him. I'm going to go ahead and enter in the check. And I just click OK. And so it keeps track of it, keeps track of his payments. And I can show you by opening up his account review, and it's going to show that October, here were the premiums that were due. In November, here's what the premiums were due, total of $232. He paid that. And so he now has a zero balance, and he is paid through the end of November. Okay, it's going to keep a 6-month running history of all the payments and premiums. To better illustrate that, I have Tiger Woods. I'm just going to hit the reverse button, and it's going to show that he started in March 2018. Here are the premium amounts, the payments that he's made, all the way through September. It shows he has a zero balance at the end of September, but we don't see any more payments. So since he has passed his 30-day grace period, we we can see why it's saying to terminate him in our things to do list. What I'm going to do is just double click on this. It says that he's been terminated as of 9/30, which was the last day premiums were received. Now it's going to tell me to send a termination letter. I double click on it. It's going to go ahead and send a personalized letter to Tiger, and even a proof of health insurance. We also have in the system a voluntary removal letter. And that would be used when an individual walks into the HR or the owner's office and said, hey, look, I know you charge me $200 a month for family coverage. I can no longer afford that. I need you to remove me from the insurance. Okay. Has a qualifying event occurred? No. But there is going to be a loss of coverage here. So what we do is we produce a notice that's going to explain to, in this situation, Fred Couples and any dependents that he might have about the loss of coverage. So it basically just documents that he did come into your office and have himself removed. Now what I've done is I've gone through what your people will be experiencing 90% of the time. Okay, that is what they're going to do. The information that they provide into the system is right here. It's not a ton of information. Now, I know that a lot of brokers will say, hey, look, just use a third-party administrator. Well, the employer is going to still be responsible for providing this information to the TPA. So they can either type this up or email it, whatever they want to do, but they're going to still have to give them all of this information. Why do that if all they do is enter it in here and produce the letter themselves? Is it worth paying twice the price? Okay, we have gone through the software. We touched on the law, and hopefully I've provided you everything that you need to be able to give advice to your clients as to what to do in regards to Mini Cobra. If you have further questions, I would recommend going to the website, that azminicobra.com, sending your questions to us. We'll get them answered the best we can. Okay? Since it is a new law, there's a lot of gray areas in that, and we're really not going to know the answers till further down the road, but we'll do the best we can to answer the questions. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and end the demonstration, If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call at Cobra Solutions, and the phone number 480-820-9101. Thank you.